everyone, welcome back to our channel, and today I have something a little bit different for you. So if you've watched any of our other videos, you'll see there's a lot of writing task 2 content along with speaking content as well. But I haven't really written any letters so far, and somebody just reached out to me yesterday and said, could I do letters as well? And so I figured, yep, that sounds like a good idea. So I was thinking maybe I could write one letter every week. Of course, you get the essay every week as well. So I think that could kind of help to create a nice library of content and, give you an idea of what kind of informal, semi-formal, and formal letter topics you could get and how to respond to them. Because I see that even though letter writing is kind of easy, really, and yet people really struggle with being able to write an appropriate letter. The most common issues I see with a lot of students is that somehow when it comes to formal writing, their style tends to be a little bit informal. And yet, when they're writing to friends and family, which means informal writing, their writing ends up sounding very formal. So, this kind of, weird dichotomy exists, which shouldn't. And so, I hope that this video series will make all these, little differences clear. So, here's the question. You had some photos of your family taken by a professional photographer. Write a letter to the photographer. In your letter, say that you like their photos of your family, ask them to be your photographer at a special family event, and give them the details of this event. First things first, you need to figure out, is this formal or is this informal? First, do that. Informal is easy. It's just friends or family. This person is obviously not a friend. They're obviously not a family member. So this is a formal letter. However, even under formal letters, there's actually 2 varieties where you have the usual formal letter, but you also have semi-formal letters. Now, a formal letter is written to an absolute and complete stranger. So someone that you've never spoken to at all, yeah? But semi-formal letters are written to people with whom you have had some kind of prior communication, right? So in this case, this guy is a photographer, guy or girl, you never know. The person you're writing to is a photographer and you already hired them previously for some other kind of work. So this person is not a stranger. You have interacted with them. You may have called them, emailed them, SMSed them, whatever. But there has been some interaction between the 2 of you in the past. So they're not a stranger, but at the same time, they're not a friend of yours and they're not a family member. So this is semi-formal. Now, what I would recommend doing is make sure that you stick to these bullet points, write exactly what is required. Don't write random info. The first thing you want to do is you just want to start with, for example, now in this case, since it's they don't tell you, sometimes they tell you begin with dear sir or madam, or begin with dear Mr. Smith, or begin with dear Janice, or something like that. But here they haven't mentioned, so you need to figure that out yourself. In this case, since it's not a friend, but at the same time it's not a stranger, maybe you can just write, for example, dear Miss Smith. It can be any last name, but it has to be a last name or a surname. You cannot write, for example, Mr. George. No, George is a first name, so this is wrong. A lot of people do it, but this is wrong. Mr., Miss, and Mrs. are essentially replacements for someone's first name. You can, however, write dear Mr., George Smith. So full name plus the title, that is fine. But if you just write the first name and Mr., Miss, Mrs., not okay. Yeah. Okay. So let's get this out of the way. So I've got my, okay, I want to change the text here because, okay, there we go. Dear Miss Smith. So that's your, salutation. And then what you do is you very quickly kind of, you need kind of an introductory sentence, but don't make it complicated. You can just start by saying, for example, I'm writing to you. Whoops, why is it canceled? And of course, you don't use short forms like I am, we are, we'll save that for informal content. So I am writing to, let's see, first things first, they tell you that you had some photos of your family taken, so you want to tell this photographer that you really liked their pictures. I'm writing to you because you were our photographer at our... Now, what kind of family event could this be? It could be a wedding, it could be an engagement ceremony, it could be some kind of birthday, it could be an anniversary of a marriage. It could be any kind of celebration. Could even be like, let's say, a baptism, a naming ceremony, etc. So, your child's first birthday, for example, anything that comes to mind. Pick the easiest thing. It doesn't matter, if you choose to write about a wedding versus someone's birthday, you're not going to get a better score. It's not like that. So don't worry about the minor details. Remember that this text is just a way for them to get a sample of your content so they can, check your work. Yeah, that's all that is required for. So I'm writing to you because you are a photographer for our families. Let's say, or maybe you can say for my sister. I mean, in this case, just what I'm coming up with. You can write anything for my sister's newborn daughter's baptismal ceremony, right? So you make it clear what you're responding to or what you're writing about. Informal and semi-formal communication, it's some kind of professional or business transaction, right? So you don't want to waste anyone's time. Basically, that's the kind of idea that you want to keep in mind. No unnecessary pointless fluff. Don't write huge detailed paragraphs. There's absolutely no reason to write a huge bunch of content. Remember, stick to the bullet point. Don't write anything that isn't related to the bullet point. You just have to say you like the photos of their family. Okay, so how do I express that? I'm writing to you because you were our photographer for my sister's newborn daughter's baptismal ceremony last week. We just received the pictures from this. We just received the pictures via post from your office, and we are all just amazed by how beautifully you managed to capture this wondrous and an emotional moment, or these wondrous and emotional moments. And let's just check the word count. This is like 47 words. What I would recommend is, since in total you're gonna have to ensure a minimum word count of 150 words, you want to ensure not like like I said, no huge paragraphs. You don't have to, again, because see, you have only 20 minutes, so you want to use your time effectively. And so for letter writing, you really don't need idea generation and stuff like that, right? Because it's not so complicated. You will write maybe 3-4 sentences. That's it. 3-4 sentences for every bullet point. Now, this is really important because if out of your 3 or 4 sentences, 2 or 3 sentences are about random stuff that's not related to a bullet point, that is going to severely negatively impact your score. And that is why people do so badly in letters. Not because they don't know how to write letters, but because they write random content. That's a huge, huge problem. And I understand though, because when you start writing, you kind of get into a flow and you just like to express yourself, right? And I get that way as well. When I'm doing my homework assignments in the other languages that I'm learning, I kind of tend to just, go off topic. That happens a lot to me. But then it's a little bit, casual with our homework there. But if I was taking an exam, whenever I take an exam, I am always careful to double and triple check my work and of like really kind of, hold myself by the neck and prevent myself from writing anything that is not 100% related. You have to be super sharp, sharp as a knife, I'll say. Because again, it's, you're taking the exam. Do you really want to fail the exam? Of course not. So you have to be a little bit, tough on yourself. So this is like 2 sentences. I just need one more sentence. Appreciate this person's work, right? You like their photos of your family. We just received the pictures via post from your office, and we are all just amazed and taken aback, whatever. You can use adjectives and adverbs to, spice things up. It really helps to increase word count, but also add, emotionality to your text. Beautifully managed to capture wondrous emotional moments, right? These wondrous and emotional moments. The entire family is, well, we already said amazed. So we just received the pictures via post. The fact that you managed to I already used amazing, so I don't want to use that. Perfect pictures of, maybe the baby's name is Emmeline. The fact that you managed to click such perfect pictures of Emmeline, even though she was all over the place, is just remarkable. And Emmeline is obviously a female name, and we've already said daughter, and so yeah. Babies are, of course, all over the place. They never stay still. Or you can say the fact that you managed to click such perfect pictures of Emmeline, even though she almost never, stayed still. Now, when you start the next paragraph, don't just start abruptly. I would like to, or you need to. Try and use a transition. Now, because this photographer did such an amazing job, now we want to work with them once again. So you can start by saying because, yeah? Because you've done, such an amazing job. Simple, right? Because you've done such an amazing job, we actually wanted to ask you if you would be available in maybe, in the second week of October. You want them to be, you have to ask them, right? See, ask, you should use a question. At least there should be one question mark at least. But questions can be asked in a variety of ways. One thing that a lot of people do instead of asking questions is they end up writing a command like you should, or you have to, or a request. I would be so happy if you decided to blah blah blah, etc. Don't do that. If your bullet point says ask, you must ask a question. This is what they're judging you on. Okay, so let's get back to this. Because you've done such an amazing job, we actually wanted to ask you if you would be available in the second week, in the second week of October for my, let's say, for my, yeah, for my, let's say, 10th wedding anniversary. Yeah. And now here, this is, not really phrased. I mean, it's a sentence, it's a request, yes, but it's not really, there's no question mark, right? Now, I need to ensure that I have at least one, ideally two question marks in this paragraph, because the whole point is ask, ask, ask. And in English, there's many ways to ask, but the most common way is to use questions. So I must do that, right? We actually wanted to, maybe you can see, we want to inquire about your availability. you don't want to ask, are you available? Because that's a little bit too direct. Would you, da da da, is always, more polite. Yeah. So remember, you have to be polite when writing formally. So because you've done such an amazing job, we actually wanted to inquire about your availability. Would you be available in the second week of October for my 10th wedding anniversary? Give them details. Okay, so no details in this paragraph. That's extremely, extremely important. And sometimes what happens is people mix up the details. Don't do that. You have to keep your details all separate. That is absolutely mandatory, okay? I know it's tough, but you need a little bit of practice to get used to that. So, would you be available in the second week of October for my 10th wedding anniversary? I understand it is rather short notice, but let's say we cannot find another photographer, but we do not want to work with any other photographer. Now that we know, right, the quality of your work, so again, we're like praising this person. We really don't want to. We're willing to pay a premium if that helps, something like that, maybe. Right. Okay. And that's it. Three, 4 sentences, no more than that. And the last one, give them details. I have already booked the venue for, let's say, maybe you can say, for again, it's a new paragraph, so I should think of a transition. In case you can make it, or maybe you can think of, let's say, give them details. The venue is actually pretty close to your studio. It is just a 10-minute drive. You can say, for example, Springfield Hall is just a 10-minute drive. We are planning to hold a recommitment ceremony. Sometimes couples do that. Oops. I forget the actual term. It's a recommitment ceremony, but you could even just have, for example, is that too much recommitment ceremony? Maybe we're planning to hold a little party, little get together for, let's say, how many people is that gonna be? 50 people? Little party? That sounds weird. Okay, party for our family and friends. Which will, in total, that will be, maybe I'll just go with the recommit. I don't know. Let's see. Springfield Hall is just 10-minute drive. The venue is actually close. Or here I can just write Springfield Hall is actually pretty close to your studio, as it is just a 10-minute drive away. We're planning to hold a party for our family and friends for, let's say, 45 of our, closest family and friends, from, let's say, 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. I don't know if that's, maybe, yeah, okay. Whoops, 10 p.m. and wow, okay. The thing with p.m. and a.m. is what you need to do is, ideally, if you want to really, really be super, super correct, you need these, period marks after P and M. It's the same thing with a lot of other, abbreviations. But even if you just write PM, AM without, the dots, it's still fine. That's not really a problem. Okay, so the venue Springfield Hall is actually pretty close to your studio, as it is just a 10-minute drive away. We are planning to hold a party for 45 of our closest family and friends from 4 p.m. No need for the comma, from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. Since we are also planning a recommitment ceremony around sunset, we wanted to ensure really great pictures, and we know we can trust you. There we go. I think that's good enough. You don't really need more content than that. Also, one thing you can keep in mind is keep your paragraphs roughly similar in size. Not exactly, don't worry, but roughly, overall. Yeah, give them details. The venue, timing, there's a ceremony around sunset, from 8 p.m. onwards. There will be food and drinks for all, and you are invited as well. Maybe something like that. Nice. Okay. um, maybe we will also have. Yep, there you go. And then finally, what you want to do is you want to again sign off with just one sentence. Don't write looking forward to hearing from you. It's very boring, bland, tired. When examiners see that, they know that this person is just writing this for the sake of writing something. So don't do that. That's very boring. Instead, you can say, for example, now in this case, as a photographer, you don't need a very, very formal tone. You can start with looking, yeah, looking forward to a positive. Again, it's, depends on the relationship, right? You don't have a very stiff relationship with the photographer, but maybe if you were writing, let's say, to your professor or to your manager, then you might like to be a little bit more formal and instead write, I look forward to a positive consideration. So personalize it. And although this person is not a friend, they're a photographer, so it's not a very stiff, relationship, like with my supervisor, manager, professor, teacher, etc. And then what you do is you know this person's name, so you end with yours sincerely, and a first name and a last name. Both are really important. Yeah, without a first name and last name, it's going to be amazing. See, these areas are really important. Okay, so dear Miss Smith, the greeting, salutation, and then the ending. Because, this person may have many customers who are named Sarah. So how are they supposed to know which Sarah is writing to me? So you need a full name. It can be your name. It could be anyone else's name. That doesn't matter. Yep. Okay, so here's the whole thing all fitting in right here. Let's check the word count. So this is 235. Pretty good. Like, you don't have to write a lot more. 150 is the bare minimum. You want to write around 180 or so, a little bit more or less. I know 235 is a little bit on the bigger side, but that's just how I tend to write. That doesn't mean you have to write like this. So you can pause the screen, have a look at the whole thing. That's the entire letter. Letters are super simple. They don't take any time, really. You just need to ensure that you follow a few rules. Ideally, if you're practicing writing, get someone to check your writing. Yep. Alright then, if you found the video useful, please don't forget to click on the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, because there will be a lot of useful videos. While you're here, you might as well check out some of our older videos. It'll help you a lot with writing and speaking. And of course, we're planning lots more, so stick around. And if you have any comments or suggestions, feedback, whatever, I'm open to everything. And if you have any specific questions, you can actually leave that as a comment down below as well, and I'd probably create a video tutorial guide or something like that. All right then, until then, bye bye.